him out of here, put him in a body bag. The DILF vibes were DILFing. I loved this book. This book was so good. It got 5 stars from me. I'm not going to be doing a summary or anything. If you have not read this book and don't want to be spoiled, don't watch this video. I have a book on Words of Radiance, on The Way of Kings, and if you want to watch that one, I talk about the summary and everything, but this is the second in the series, so if you don't want to be spoiled, click away. I don't have a whole lot to say about this book. I was really just along for the ride, and yeah, like the title said, this book like was stressing me out, but like in a good way. Like the tension was high and it kept me reading, but it had me stressed out. But yeah, I'm just gonna be talking about just some of my overall thoughts and then talk about the characters, and then that's the video. My overall thoughts, general thoughts. I'm a character reader, and I was so happy to be able to see all the characters interact, like get closer and closer, seeing Kaladin as Dalinar and Adolin's bodyguards, and him working with the king, Shallan coming there, Shallan and Adolin going on little dates and stuff, Dalinar and Kaladin and Adolin. It was just so fun for the most part. Obviously, the writing's good, the pacing's good, characterization, it's Brandon Sanderson. What else is new? Getting into the characters, of course, starting off with the boy, Kaladin. He is such a good guard. He takes his job probably a little too seriously, but that's what makes him a good guard. And in the last one, I said I thought he was going to be like King Kaladin, but I don't think he wants to be king. And it would make sense that he wouldn't. Like, he just wants to, like, the war to be done and then just to be able to live his life and, like, make his father proud. Like, I don't think he necessarily wants to become a king, but we'll see. Apparently the series is like 10 books long, so we got a long ways to go. Him and Shallan's first few interactions were pretty funny with how they butt heads. I'm like, oh my gosh, those two be verbally sparring, man. They don't play around. When the whole thing with Adolin, I'll talk that a little bit more in depth when I get to Adolin, but the part where he ends up having to fight 4 shard bearers and no one's jumping in to help, and Kaladin with no shard jumps in and beats them all. Oh my goodness. That part was so good and so cool, but I was stressed out. That's where all the stress started to like accumulate for me, because rightfully Kaladin challenges Amaran, which is his right to do so, even though he's not a light eyes, which was dumb, and he gets arrested. I was like, Kaladin just got arrested? I'm like, are you kidding me? They put that man in a jail cell after him helping out a prince? Are you crazy? And how like his resentment started to build, and he was just getting more and more frustrated, like his hatred pretty much for the king growing, and still being like, I don't like that this is happening, and still kind of like being distanced. And then he falls into the chasm with Shallan, and Syl's gone. I'm like, what do you mean Syl's gone? I'm like, like freaking out. And like, he killed her apparently, and I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, he can't use Stormlight? I was freaking out. I was like, what do you mean he can't use Stormlight? Like, what is he gonna do? Because yeah, then he has to freaking fight a chasm fiend, and he gets injured and he can't heal himself. I was like, oh no. And then he's still healing, and he's like, I have to heal like a normal man, and I'm irritated for him. And then he was initially going along with the plot to kill Elifkar, but he was like, no, that's not the right thing to do. Yeah, how Elifkar is Dalinar's Tien. I'm like, oh, that's a very Kaladin way to look at it. How he freaking nearly dies fighting Moash and his shard plate, but then he says the words finally, and he still comes back and he can use Stormlight, and it's like, oh my goodness. Like, I was gripping the pages. It's not as like beat up as it could be, but it was stressing me out. And then yeah, with him being a Knight's Radiance now, I honestly wish his eyes didn't change, but like, yeah, Kaladin's like, I don't want to be a light eyes. I'm like, I don't want you to be one either. But it's okay. I'm obviously it's related to the shard or whatever, so it's good. But we'll see what ends up happening with Kaladin. Next is Shallan. I can't lie, the flashbacks were a tad bit annoying for me, and with like the reveal that like her mom tried to kill her and then her dad killed her mom and then she killed her dad, but like when she was killing him she was like singing to him. I was like, that's a little cringy and kind of insane or messed up, kind of messed up. Yeah, it was just I was like, oh wow. But her characterization in this book was super freaking good. I'm glad she was able to like lean into being herself more. She talked a lot about like her heeding advice from Jasnah and Tin and just a lot of different people, and how yes, that advice was important, but it was also important for her to like be herself. And even with whether she was with Adolin, she's like, I have to like impress him, but I'm not trying to like flatter him. And then when she's Veil, she's like, yes, it's a disguise, but it's not her pretending to be somebody, it's just a version of herself. I really liked that. But Shallan was another one that had me stressed out. Oh my goodness, when the whole thing on the ship happened and Jasnah died, and then she got stranded, and then I was like, oh my gosh, she's gonna have to survive. And then she runs into those men. I'm like, oh my gosh, those men are gonna attack her. But then they didn't, and then they run into those other men. I'm like, those men are gonna attack her. And then she met Tin and was like getting along with her, but she just started like doing everything like she told her to do, and it was like, no, don't, like, why are you just listening to her and like taking her advice on everything? Like when they run into Kaladin for the first time because he's scouting with the bridge crew, and she puts on that like horn eater impression. I was literally like cringing because I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Like, just talk normally. Like, especially I'm like, obviously as a reader you knew they were going to interact, but it's like, he's clearly a guard somewhere, and if you're betrothed to one of the High Prince's sons, you're probably gonna end up seeing him again, especially if he's speaking to you in that manner. So it was very frustrating. But then with everything going on with Tin and how Tin tried to kill Shallan, but then Shallan killed her, I was like, good job, Shallan, good job. And then the stuff with the ghost bloods I was like spy stuff, like having to sneak around and lie. How when she first went in, like he had those darts and like she was scared they were gonna kill her, and then they tried to kill her multiple times. Stuff like that just stresses me out. So I was like, the whole book I was worried for Shallan. I thought she was gonna get in some trouble, all that. But then how the leader of the Ghost Bloods like found her anyway, and so I'm interested to see where that is going to go. I was honestly surprised when Adolin and Shallan, when Jasnah was like, I set up a betrothal with my nephew, and I was like, oh my gosh, or her cousin? Are they cousins or nephews? I don't know. Her relative. Next is Adolin. He was so cute in Shallan's perspective. Like how when they first meet and he's like smiling at her, he's like, hey, I got you this drink and da da da, all this stuff. Yeah, they're cute together. And how like Shallan's like, I'm definitely smarter than him, but I don't want to make him feel stupid. But yeah, we were in Adolin's perspective more than Dalinar's, and it was like, I liked it. I liked being in his head. He's surprisingly earnest. I think you're in his perspective a few times in the first one, but in this one you get a good feel for him. And if I'm being honest, I feel similarly to how it is when you read Kaladin's perspective. And yeah, neither of them would want to admit it, but they're definitely like a lot alike. Even if like Adolin is a little bit more like pampered and like spoiled and kind of like a ladies' man, like they're still like similar in a lot of ways. I liked how him and Kaladin's relationship developed. They're both like very mistrusting of each other, but then as they do more and just are around each other more, they get a really good like banter. And obviously with the whole shard barrier thing, they gained a lot of trust. And even after Kaladin was arrested, Adolin staying in a cell, even though it was like a nice one, until Kaladin was released. I'm like, that's showing of solidarity. Like, you gotta respect Adolin for that. But with the 4 shard bears, I knew they were gonna pull some BS because he's like trying to get people to duel with him and they're not doing it, and he was like, oh yeah, bring anybody. I'm like, you're not gonna confirm 2, like you're not gonna confirm that it'll be 2, and they never did. I was thinking that, I was like, they didn't say it was gonna be 2 and it's gonna be more, and then 4 shard bears walked out and I was like, yep, knew it. I knew that was gonna happen, but I didn't think it was gonna end up being Kaladin jumping in. And oh my gosh, I forgot Renarin started to jump in, and oh my gosh, Renarin's one of the Knights of Radiance. I didn't even like include him. Like as I'm filming this, I'm remembering Renarin. But he'll become more prominent in the next books. And then the best part of the book in Adolin's perspective is him freaking murking Sadeas. Oh my gosh. Get him out of here. Put him in a body bag. Oh my gosh. Sadeas is dead. Adolin killed him. Freak. Yeah. Amaran, you're next. You're next, Amaran. I can't wait. I cannot wait for Amaran to freaking die because I hate Amaran. So yeah, that punk. I was so glad Dalinar checked him. He was like, you're not a nice radiant anymore. Adolin killing Sadeas was brutal. I'm not gonna lie. Sadeas deserved it for sure. The countless times he tried to get Dalinar assassinated, from leaving him on the battlefield to get slaughtered by Prashendi. Just so many things. Him just like trying to smear Dalinar's reputation, make him untrustworthy, just like working against him. And yeah, they literally, like, Dalinar was right with his visions, and they find Uathuru, is that on here? I don't know how to say that city name. And he's standing in that freaking tower and he's like, there can't be 2 generals that lead this kingdom, blah blah blah. And it's like, all this happening and you're still plotting, you're still like scheming, wanting to kill Dalinar. I would snap too if I was Adolin. But yeah, just the one part that sticks in my brain, or obviously the whole scene, but how right before Adolin kills him, Sadeas whimpers, and it's like, oof, like why did Brandy Sanderson have to sneak that in there? Like, he should have just gone silently. Adolin's brutal. He's like, I'm not a better man than my father, and he freaking moves the knife around to make sure he's dead. And then he just very swiftly cuts the blood off his cuffs, cuts his bloody cuffs off, throws his shard blade out the window, and is like, I was never here. And that is that. And yeah, I hope he's probably gonna get away with it, but obviously there's like still Sadeas' wife and everything. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, good riddance, Sadeas. Amaran's next. I can't wait. And then Dalinar, my favorite character. He definitely took a back seat in this book. I think it was like the biggest part where he you're not in his perspective. I was like, oh, I miss Dalinar, but I can't lie, he was really hot in this book. The DILF vibes were DILFing. And before anybody gets on me, fictional men are the only men that are safe to thirst over blatantly, okay? And Dalinar, I don't know what it is. he's just great, okay? I think it was like seeing him in everyone's different perspectives, and I don't know why everyone described him as intimidating. I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes me like him more. Let me be, okay? I'm allowed to thirst over Dalinar if I want to. Jeez. In terms of his arc in this book, he was right. He was right. He trusted his visions. It was from the freaking Stormfather, or was it the Stormfather? Is the Stormfather Spren? I don't remember. He was freaking right. Proved everybody wrong. He wasn't crazy. What about it? And just with Kaladin specifically, how their dynamic developed throughout the book, it does give me father and son vibes, but obviously they both never crossed that line of it being too much. When Kaladin was in the prison and Dalinar came to see him, and he was like, are you a soldier or not? Are you gonna listen and do what you're told, or are you just gonna do whatever you want? How he calls him son, and it's like, oh, But yeah, I love a father-son dynamic, especially when they're not actually father and son. Next is Szeth. I don't know how to describe it. I didn't realize how crazy he was until this book. Like, yeah, everyone was like, "Oh, this man's insane." Like, they look at him a little too long and they're like, "Oh, he's crazy." I didn't realize that. I was so glad when Kaladin got Syl back and he went to go save Dalinar. Because yeah, when his assignment was Dalinar, I was like, "No, not Dalinar, no." I was genuinely worried, but like in the fight earlier in the book, how he protects Dalinar and how freaking he got Kaladin with a shard blade, but Kaladin was able to heal himself. It was like, oh my gosh. I was like, dang, he's gonna lose a hand. And then the ending fight, and so if I'm not mistaken, Kaladin killed Szeth, but then I don't remember who it was. That man brought him back and he was like, "You're free now. You get to start over." I don't know if he's supposed to be good or bad. Like, is he going to be one of the Knights Radiant? Or is he, like, going to work with that one dude who's, like, taking over Carbranth and all that crazy stuff that's happening over there? Yeah, I don't know where he's I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if he's an antagonist or not. And then Jasnah. So if you watched my Way of Kings video, in the part where I'm doing the predictions, I predicted that Jasnah was gonna die, and I was technically right, but also wrong, because obviously she's killed in the beginning, but she wasn't dead. Yay! I didn't want her to die. I didn't want her to die. She was in Shadesmar and healing herself, and she's back now, and Shallan did everything that she was gonna do, so I'm interested to see how prominent of a role she will have in the next book. And yeah, after this, I'm like, I don't know what they're supposed to be doing next. I have no idea. I have no predictions. I have no guesses. I'm just like, yeah, I would say if there's one question I have, it would be, Kaladin's parents are still alive? I don't know why I thought they died, and I thought he just like mourned them, but I guess after Tien died, or Tien was killed, and he sent that letter and they just never responded. I think he just like didn't feel like he deserved to like see his parents anymore, but he's going to like warn them about the Everstorm and all that stuff. I have no idea what is happening next. I saw someone on Reddit talking about how Rhythms of War is like kind of boring and like nothing happens. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And then I was like, is that the last book? And I looked it up. It's supposed to be a 10-book series. And I'm like, this is already the length of like 2 books combined, maybe even 3. And it's like, there's supposed to be what? Not 9, 6 more books that come out. So yeah, and if you also watched my Way of Kings video, I did say I was going to read Mistborn first, but literally the audiobook is taking forever, because I guess Mistborn is a little bit more popular than The Way of Kings, and definitely more digestible for sure, if you're not like a fantasy reader. The Way of Kings audiobook was available, and I was like, I can knock this out in 3 weeks, and that is exactly what I did, and I am very happy. Yeah, The Way of Kings got 4.5. This one got 5 stars. I wouldn't say it's a favorite, but it is super good. And yeah, I'm excited to read Oathbringer and Rhythms of War, but I am gonna take some time away, because I think this ended on a good spot, and especially if like Oathbringer ends on a cliffhanger, or if Rhythms of War, I think I always want to have like 2 books to read after I finish it, just so I'm like, I can keep going with the story whenever I want to and not feel like I have to wait for the next book to come out. So yeah, I'm taking a break from the Stormlight Archive for a minute, and I'm gonna get through the rest of my physical TBR and then read Oathbringer eventually. But yeah, it might not even be next year, it might be the year after, who knows. I will cross that bridge when I come to it. But yes, have you read Words of Radiance? I almost said The Way of Kings, oh my gosh. Have you read Words of Radiance? What did you think? What did you rate it? Another absolute brick of a book from Brandon Sanderson. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more of me and hear how good of a singer I am, you can check out my music channel and original music all under the name of Shy Fighter. Like if you want to like, subscribe if you want to subscribe. I don't know, do whatever you would like to do, and I will see you when I see you. Farewell.